Welcome to another episode of Bad Batch Recaps. This time we are doing episode 11 plus 12. We were off last week. We were a little bit of what we call vacation week in the Barstool world. Our offices were closed. And we figured, we deserve a week off, right?
Vacation is like a foreign language. Like it'd be like Jabba no baga, Jabba no vacation. Like that didn't exist basically for. I mean, I would say my entire time at Barstool. I think last week was like our first vacation week, except for the Christmas break between New Year's. And that's been a tradition since like Dave started the site or the newspaper. So, and you know what? I actually kind of liked everyone calling us out and being like, "Yo, where's my Bad Batch recap?" So I appreciate everyone holding us to that standard, and it worked out. I mean, the way it all worked out, this was like Han Solo falling in shit kind of thing, because it was basically like a double episode recapping. It was like a two-parter that kind of continued, and I was like, oh, we could do this no problem with me and Kenjack here.
Exactly. That's a great point. This is essentially like a mini arc, and that's that these two episodes are very connected and very closed off and insular from the rest of the whole Bad Batch universe. So it did work out perfectly. A lot of you might notice Robbie's not here today. Robbie a little under the weather. So me and Clem will be guiding you through this, which I think is good, because this episode has, and the last episode, they both have a very big and deep connection to both Star Wars Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. And for Clem, that's something he won't necessarily be totally attuned to, but Robbie would be very attuned to. So this is good, because this way we can get some for the laymen who are watching Bad Batch, plus the people who are more experienced, which is good, I think.
Yeah, and that's always my first question. It's like, how deep are we diving here? Because I dug the planet of Ryloth, and I was like, I'm interested to see how this is all going to evolve over time, in the future series. And it definitely felt like there was something there, but I didn't know how deep. And the fact that it's a lot deeper than even I realized, I like it. I like that a lot.
Before I start, just because I haven't had a chance to watch your guys' Loki recap yet on My Mom's Basement, which you can go watch on YouTube. Yes, what did you guys think of the Loki finale?
It was pretty funny. So we had the Clancy's on, Brendan and Kevin, obviously, and Kevin basically was sucking the dick of anyone associated with Loki, which is a big change for, his quote unquote hater of the year persona. So it was like almost like I felt like at some point I was like, I think we might have to pump the brakes of this, because we were all just like over the top in love with it, which most people were. There were a few people I saw that didn't love it, but we were geeking out over for basically an hour straight.
Yep, same here. I was writing up an entire big blog for it, and I'm just like, there's so much stuff here that I think the more I marinate on it, I like more. I think the whole portrayal by Jonathan Majors of, not Kang, but He Who Remains is awesome. And it's so cool, because I feel like that's such a great treat for an actor, right? Because he gets to do the role of He Who Remains in whatever persona he wants to do. And the actual role of Kang the Conqueror might be a totally different performance, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's gonna get really weird. And I don't know much about Jonathan Majors. I didn't know much about him heading into it. And just seeing the way he played it, and then knowing that he's gonna be coming back in different, variants of himself. I'm like, oh man, like, they're going to absolutely crush us. You guys, I always say you guys nailed this better on LCB than I ever could. But like the roles that casting agents play in like the success of a film or a franchise, and I feel like whoever is the casting agent for Marvel is batting 1,000, and it's not like a small sample size. It's like a decade now, and the person is still batting 1,000. It's fucking crazy.
Yep, 100% true. The Jonathan Majors, for those of you who are wondering, which is weird, he's actually like my old roommate's like best friend growing up, which is bizarre. But he also, if you ever watched the movie Hostiles with Christian Bale, he's really great in that. He's going to be in an all-black Western coming up soon with Regina King and Idris Elba, which is going to be awesome, I'm sure. Very talented actor. Defy Bloods too, bunch of other stuff. Very good guy, and I'm super pumped he's going to be in Marvel. But that's enough Loki talk on a Star Wars property. But this is all Mouse Incorporated, so they're all related in their own way. So we're going to do a quick recap of episode 11, but we're going to focus more on episode 12. Episode 11 was titled Devil's Deal. This episode is one of the more detached ones, I would say, from the Bad Batch. It focuses more on Ryloth and their transition from fighting against the Separatists to being part of the Empire. You see Senator Ta here, someone we see in not only Revenge of the Sith, but in other properties like Clone Wars as well. Essentially, Admiral Rampart is de-arming all of the guerrillas that have been fighting against the Separatists with the clones, because he doesn't want them fighting against them later on or rising up against them, because the Empire is now essentially taking over. They promised to be fighting with the rebels, but now they're like, okay, well, actually what's going to happen is you're going to be part of us. Like, we didn't fight for you for nothing. We own you, which is clearly rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, right? Especially in that crowd.
They absolutely nailed like the bloated senator who's shady as fuck. That I mean, obviously, like I said, we know he's on the wrong side, or I guess the right side of history when if you're the Empire. But he's just a scumbag motherfucker here who's not thinking about his people's interests at all. And it's like, oh shit, this is going to be one of the planets that really falls hard to the Empire. But also, I mean, we'll see how it all plays out. But will also kind of be a big seed for the rebellion. I imagine the people, we'll get into that later on.
Yeah, he's the big fat cat, literal like politician, like just lining his pockets while all the people are suffering, which is like a very, I think, common motif you'll see over the last century. So with Cham Syndulla, who a lot of you are going to remember from Clone Wars, he's the leader of the Free Ryloth movement. He's kind of resigned to giving up this fight because he's like, they've been fighting for so long. They just want to like have peace for the planet. You see Cham Syndulla here saying like, hey, look, when we were losing the war to these separatists, these guys came in and saved us. We should be like, thankful to them. They're here to protect us. Don't fight against them. His lieutenant, however, Gobik Lee, doesn't trust the Empire, and he starts running out to get guns now that they're disarmed, and they're feared to him by the Bad Batch, which is like our first appearance to them, and only appearance. They're only in this episode for maybe like 5-10 minutes, right?
It's funny because when they showed up on the screen, oh yeah, that's right, like the Bad Batch, that's what this whole fucking show is about. I forgot all about them, and it's their show, which I mean just kind of goes like they kind of did get you into that storyline really quick. And again, this is coming as someone that doesn't know anything about Ryla, so like I wasn't like, oh, that's good to see this, and I'm interested to see how everything's going to play out. I forgot all about the goddamn Bad Batch, but I do like that. I like that instead of just, all right, Bad Batch is on screen, they visit Sid, here's your job, do the job. It's like the same kind of thing, but all we just see is them just bringing the guns out to them. So I dug that kind of way of the way they told the story there.
I like that perspective on it too, because again, for me, these are characters that I've seen before. Like Hera Syndulla is someone I've seen before, who you can see there on the left. Cham Syndulla is someone I've seen before. This is in Clone Wars and the Rebels. But for you, being immersed in it, despite not like having that background, I think is awesome, because then you can be it's kind of proof positive that you could be a layman and watch shows like this. Same thing with Mandalorian too, where there's like infrared references that won't ruin your experience if you don't know things. You know what I mean? They make
That's always like the number one question I would get from people is like, hey, can I just jump into Mandalorian? I haven't really watched all the Star Wars movies and stuff like that. And I'm like, I think so. Yeah, for sure. But then I never know what that experience is like for someone, because I can't just like, reset my brain, Men in Black flashing thing myself. And I can tell you right now, you could jump into this without any clue. Like I said, my 6-year-old daughter jumps into it and she loves it. So it's just one of those shows you can get into. And I'm sure for someone like you, it's one of those things where it's the experience is a little richer, but it's still just fine and good, I'd say.
Yeah, it's like a cherry on top. I have like the sixth sense, but it's not like you having 5 senses. But yeah, so he's going to get the guns from the Bad Batch. He has Hera Syndulla with him. Hera Syndulla is a very important character in Star Wars Rebels, a main character. They all get arrested by the Empire on the return with the guns. And basically, like, Hera shouldn't have really been arrested. He was kind of just along for the ride. Gobik Lee, sure, if you're looking at this bureaucratically. But then some Cham comes to rescue his daughter, and they're defeated and later framed for killing Senator Ta, who's actually killed by crosshairs. This is kind of like a false flag operation in order to get Cham Syndulla like in bad graces with the people, because now the Empire could say, hey, look, they assassinated this guy, and Senator Ta's kind of been an asshole to the Rampart in general, just like an annoyance more than anything else, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he's always asking for more shit. He's just a dickhead. So I hope Cham has like, obviously like the Empire, the Senator probably like has like, connections at like whatever the digital news, the galactic newspaper is out there on Ryloth. But hopefully Cham has like the right blogger who can throw some journalism out there to kind of show his side of the story, because that was like, I was like, oh fuck, we're in trouble now. And shout out to Crosshair, man, put it right where he wanted to, lived up to the name, lived up to the scar, fucking surgical with that shit.
Right in the head, fucking domed him. That was incredible. Yeah, definitely a little yellow journalism going on to try and stoke the flames, control the people a little bit. That's definitely an Empire classic.
I never realized you were a history major until I heard you on Twisted History, Ken Jack. So the yellow journalism with some old school. Who were some of the infamous fat cats from like the early 1900s? We can start throwing them in there too with this senator. We can start throwing those names around. I love we can dive into some history here.
We get some Carnegies in here, get some Pinkertons. We'll do all sorts of fun stuff. So they kill Senator Ta. They frame now Cham Syndulla for that, and they they get arrested, but they let Hera escape, or essentially not let her escape. Basically, she just escapes with Chopper, and that's where the episode ends. We pick up on the next one. Again, this is a two-parter, and the second part I think is a little bit more encompassing, especially because there's just more inclusion of the Bad Batch. We start off with now Cham Syndulla back on Ryloth. He's imprisoned and being interrogated by Admiral Rampart. He wants to know where Hera is hiding out because she's now essentially their main target. We see Chopper doing a little bit of recon, spying on the Imperials, and Hera decides to call the Bad Batch and a little holo message, which I'm sure this was an immediate pickup for you right here, right? Like this is something like, oh, that looks familiar.
Yep. Like you said, big vibes.
Exactly. Yeah. So they holo messaged the Bad Batch, which she had met in the last episode. And since she asked them, okay, look, I'll pay you whatever you want. Come home, meet me at this rendezvous point. And she obviously, I think, got along really well with Omega in that short bit. So Omega, it really wants to, she's like dead set. Like, we're going to go do this mission for sure. And the Bad Batch are a little bit hesitant at first because they're like, we're not involved in this. This isn't our fight. Like, this isn't our dog. Like, why are we going to risk our lives for this? And Omega convinces them, like, come on, let's just go meet up with them, see what's going on. So they start like looking around what's going on in Ryloth. You see it all there. It's a cool ass city, by the way. Ryloth looks awesome. It's almost like a Minas Tirith from Lord of the Rings, the way it's like set into that mountain.
I last episode I said whatever that planet was, I forgot. It was like do you remember the planet from the last episode? There was one that had like the nice trees. It was like in the autumn and stuff like that as they landed. I thought that was my favorite planet. I think this one might be I think Ryloth might be my favorite planet. And they even have, I love they have the it's like the palace or whatever, and like the balconies where they talk down to the people. I just love that is very well set out. I mean, obviously they made it for the show, but it's like the perfect way for like to show the politicians over the people and all that kind of stuff. So I dug this one a lot too.
Yeah, big Hitlery vibes to this one. It reminded me of, do you remember in not Raiders, The Last Crusade, where like Indiana Jones is like watching the big Hitler speech from the sidelines? It always reminds me of that. The big guy talking down. It's good stuff.
To be clear, when I say I like it, I do not like Hitler. Anti-Hitler, pro the balconies where you can talk to your people. I'm going to make that one very clear. Yeah, Robbie Fox is silent on the issue, though. We don't know where Robbie stands since he's not here.
We have no clue because he's not here. He's going to have to show up and like address these allegations. So they're watching over.
He's going to get a tweet and he's going to be like, why did someone just ask him?
From pro Hitler? He is a Loki variant. You never know.
That is true.
You never know. So while they're looking over the speech to get discovered by a probe droid, you can see it here. Hunter, being the master genius hunter guy he is, gonna sniffs it out, stabs it in the eye, and takes it down. But now they know that they've lost the element of surprise, which is like, okay, now this mission we're burned. There's no point. We can't continue. They're too heavily armed. They're now aware we're here. We can't do it. And Omega again is like no, we have to help out. Like these are good people. We're soldiers. Like that. Like that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Is helping people who can't help themselves. And she talks to Hera, and Hera, they kind of like plan out a little scheme because like she knows the territory in the city and everything better than the Imperials do, better than they do. So she helps them like kind of formulate an idea of how to get her parents out of there. So Chopper is going to sneak in and basically disable. They have those big ass cannons, which are like the big square ones you always see on like the Death Star and like everything else, right? I love those cannons, by the way.
Those cannons are so sweet, and it's one of those things that usually when there's big ships or whatever shooting at you, you don't really see where the lasers are coming from. But the fact we know that those cannons are there, I always love that. And Chopper, I think Chopper is, I was going to say like top 3 favorite droids in Star Wars. I think that's a little rash to say, but I'm going to say he's definitely top 5. And I just met him this morning, basically.
Oh, you're going to love him even more in a minute. Chopper he's a big Rebels steady guy, and you're going to love him more in a minute when I hit to the Easter eggs for him. So Chopper sneaks in and he disables those big turbo laser cannons so that they can escape and get in. He gets captured in the process before he can basically complete it. So Hera and Omega, they help him escape by hijacking a transport and shooting the console, which deactivates the cannons. This is a cool explosion scene too. This is something where like you see the animation kind of getting better in the show. Like the whole, like the lasers go in and they almost like melt it, and you see it like melting the actual console before it explodes. And that was like super, super cool. Blows that up, deactivates all the turbo lasers. Then Wrecker and I believe it was Tech go and shoot them all out so that they can't fire at them later on. And Hunter and Echo then rescue the Syndullas and help them escape. But Crosshair sniffs out the fact that the attack on the console and the refinery that's there is a distraction. So he sets up this big trap like that's the one door that they can come out of. So he has like all of his clone guys kind of like barricading, waiting for him to open up the door. Before he can spring that trap, the leader of the Ryloth clones, General Hauser, cool name, by the way.
Cool
General
name.
Hauser, such a cool name. We didn't get to talk about him from the last one. Awesome name. And undercut. He has cool hair and a cool name.
I saw that, like, just when I saw him in the show, I was like, oh, that's a dude. That's a dude right there. Like, I have to know who he is. He's something. I liked him.
Yeah, he was just badass.
Sweet colors too. Sweet colors. I liked his, like, even that's kind of like throwback Mariners colors right there.
Yeah, like it was like I guess you call it the Ryloth teal or something. I don't know what the exact colors are, but I do love that too about just Clone Wars and Star Wars in general. How all the clones have their own like identifying color for their I guess theater or whatever you want to call it. Or even position too, which is weird. But yeah, he's a cool dude. He basically stops them and says like, hey, look, there's a trap out there. And because he's come now to a realization that what the Empire is doing is wrong, which makes you think that now especially with the chips, that they are so heavily ingrained in the Jedi part of it that like they still have an element of free will as far as helping people who aren't Jedi, because he thinks that they should be helping Syndulla, they should be helping the people of Ryloth, and that what they're doing there is wrong.
Shout out to Hauser too. Like everyone we were supposed to protect and like fighting for, we're now fighting against, and it does make sense. Like when you take it from like you look up from the clouds, when you're in it, it probably doesn't do it. So I was like, oh shit, like, and just to see how the way everyone reacted, I'm like, all right, my guy Hauser did it. That's a dude. It's a fucking dude right there.
Exactly. And he got his little like, oh, Captain, my captain moment with like all of his dudes, right? He stops them and says like, hey, look, what we're doing is wrong. Like you guys should, like, I'm giving up this fight. You guys should too. Some of them stop. Some of them help arrest them too. But it was kind of cool. I think that was a really cool moment, just seeing him like, you know, talk some other clones into doing it. Anytime you get the clones to do an event of free will, especially non-Bad Batch clones, I think it's awesome because we usually think of them as almost robots, right?
Yeah, exactly. This has been the one thing that's kind of like humanized the Stormtrooper, because obviously Finn in the sequel trilogy did that, but that's the extent that I have with it as a casual fan here. So I dig it, but just like seeing him get arrested instantly, I was like, oh well, there goes that whole fucking that whole side of the plan.
Yeah, Hauser for sure got terminated not long after this ending scene, which is kind of sad. So the rest of them escape. They end up like doing a meeting at the rendezvous point. The batch departs from the Syndullas, who are now going off to have their own adventure later on in Rebels, which takes place after this. And they kind of separate here. I think you see Omega and Hera have like a pretty decent impact on each other in different ways, which is cool. And Crosshair, in the meantime, meets up with Rampart, who grants him permission to hunt down the batch, which I think is going to be now the sort of main theme for our last few episodes, right? We have 4 episodes left. I think that's going to be like the main sort of arc for this.
Yeah, I think that's going to be and 4 episodes seems like it's going to be the perfect way to do it. But I just can't get over how they made Rampart the perfectly punchable face as a cartoon. Like they absolutely nailed it. Whatever they did, they fucking crushed it. And like you said, the chemistry between the 2 little girls was so fun to watch. And even though Omega's like, you come in, but like, I'm gonna have my eye on you. Like she didn't let the guard down. They blew shit up, which I feel like the Bad Batch again has to be proud of their little girl growing up before their eyes. And I love the whole like flying is a feeling thing what was the daughter? What was her name again?
Hera.
Yeah, she's like, flying is a feeling, and then she actually flies, and it's like fucking all over the place, and absolutely, it's like in Will Hunting when he's like, you could tell me, all your books, but you don't know what it's like to be in like the Louvre or whatever and stuff like that. You don't know what it's like to actually be in love. You could talk about 10 fucking poems about love, and it's just like this. It's like flying is a feeling is a cool fucking phrase. Flying's also flying. We learned that quick.
It's also technical flying.
Yeah, exactly. She was like with Tyrion Griffin, just doing hood rat things with her friends, basically, just going around, just running into shit at Costco parking lot,
crashing into everything and blowing up consoles. As far as a general reaction to these 2 episodes, I like this mini arc, and I feel like that's something we have been like wanting more of from this show. Right, is getting like these more smaller arcs as opposed to every one of them being more of a one-off. I like the separation from Sid. These were 2 Sidless episodes.
Yes.
Love that, getting away from her. I hate her so much.
An episode without Sid is a win. An episode without Sid is a win. I'm with you on that.
Agreed. I thought it was cool getting a deeper look into, like, again, I think this is something you had talked about a lot, just how you like seeing the transitional periods for a lot of these planets, like from going into the bureaucracy of the Empire, right? I thought that was cool in this specific case as well.
Yes. Very anti-Hitler, very pro seeing how governments impact the people, though, at the same time. That's going to be the takeaway from this episode, I hope.
Exactly. And like seeing how the definition of like freedom fighters changes depending on who the ones they're fighting against is. And cool seeing clones again trying to impact like free will. Great episode, I think, for it's just a little more exposition for characters like Hera and Shams Syndulla, who again are bigger characters in the two other shows. We didn't get like a ton about other than like not flashback sequences, but like just conversations about what had happened in the past, because later on in Rebels, Cham and Hera have like a falling out. So, but like you don't know what actually had happened. So like getting more about that, I think was cool. I know what the relationship was like before that. Good action, good jailbreak kind of like thing. I guess you could describe it as like, which is kind of not crazy similar to the one we had seen 2 episodes ago on that other planet with the Mr. Monocle hat. But it was in the same ballpark, I'd say.
Yeah, I got a lot of vibes between the 2 episodes, and kind of like you said with the 2-part arc and whatever. I have to say, like when I hear basically a lot of these shows are coming out and I don't really know anything with them, I'm like, I feel like I'm just gonna get tired of it after like the 5th, 6th episode. But they really have kept everything so fresh. Where we remember it was like we thought the whole arc of the season was going to be them, escaping or getting the chips out, and that ended up being done. And then it was like we had this one where it's a 2-part arc. We have stuff where it's you think Omega is going to get kidnapped. She's going to be gone for a while. Nope, that gets wrapped up pretty quickly. So they keep you on your toes. They keep you feeling satisfied. They're not leaving like massive cliffhangers, but they also like, I don't know. I just like the way they're keeping everything fresh and moving and steady. And it's a fun ass show, I got to say.
Yeah, and I like how this is almost like a mini primer for what I think is going to be maybe not a 4-episode arc, but I think something definitely that's going to be way more connected than the rest of the show. Like nice little mini 2-episode arc. Now I think we're going to get a 4-episode arc. So we can move into Easter eggs a little bit. Hera, you could see over here, she was a main character in Star Wars Rebels. She's the pilot of the Ghost. She has her and this guy right here, Kanan Jarrus, are kind of like a couple throughout the show. You see a lot of the characters here. I'm sure when we were doing Mandalorian talk, Sabine Wren, I remember, was a big talk about a lot of that. She's like a Mandalorian. There's Ezra Miller, there's Chopper down there. There's Ezra Miller, who's like a Jedi apprentice. He is also a Jedi who we saw earlier in Bad Batch. Do you remember that first episode where they hunted down the Padawan and he jumped off the
Yeah.
So that's this guy right here. That's she's a big main character there. Shams Syndulla, who's here, is a big main character in Star Wars Rebels. He's essentially, again, like we were saying before, the leader of the Free Ryloth movement. He's in this big Clone Wars arc where Anakin, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, they are all in this big battle for Ryloth, but it's again versus the Separatists versus now it's going to be them versus the Empire. So this planet just nonstop freedom fighting. It's all they're about. Poor guys, they're just stuck there.
It's that South American country or like Central American that's just constantly in turmoil. Like it's like
exactly.
that's their history right there.
Exactly. And almost like the same thing where it's like big foreign powers the ones influencing people having to constantly have a freedom fight. So Chopper the robot, who you said you like so much, is voiced by none other than Dave Filoni, which is.
The force is strong with that one. What can I say? Like Dave Filoni he just like being involved with something just made me like him more. I had no fucking clue until you just said that. I always forget to scroll to the Easter eggs part of the breakdown, and then I just like thankfully I didn't fucking really spoil it there by saying anything. But I just like even the sounds. It was just like different than your typical droid. Which I mean, he probably was like, I'm Dave Filoni. I'll just do whatever the fuck I want. I'll make this droid a little different than the other droids, and it fucking worked, man. And just like he just had, I don't know, man. He just has character to him. It's just an it factor, and I guess having the Jedi of the actual Star Wars franchise voicing you will do that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, he's very like retro style, as you can see here. He's kind of like a Frankenstein robot. He's very, very funny and just like he's basically like a dumbass, which is like something that's very lovable about Chopper throughout Rebels, and just something it just makes him so much more, I think, likable. And is like every Star Wars property has their own version of like R2. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter what Star Wars thing it is, they need something like that. A droid, whether it's like Baby Yoda, whatever. And I love how he's just like this dumbass robot that just fucks up things, but also is very lovable. And just I think that's it, man. It's just the Dave Filoni charm. I love that about Chopper. Like we were saying before, the Holo video, very, very deep throwbacks to vibes to A New Hope. She was like, stop short of basically just straight up saying like, help me, I need your, you're my only hope, right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
I think she stopped it at I just need your help. The probe droids we saw very similar to the Empire versions that I think we're basically there now. This is something that I love seeing too. And we talked about this, I think, in previous episodes, seeing the transition of equipment from being Clone Wars era to Empire era. And I think that's awesome, seeing that come full fruition.
Big time cosign. I think everyone has the same flashbacks. Empire Strikes Back. If you played any game that is set in Hoth, which I mean, basically, you were always like, if they made a Star Wars game, you were going to Hoth. You were going to have to wrap up the AT-ATs with your speeder or whatever. But those probe droids got their asses blown up too a whole bunch by no matter what system you were playing or what genre, what generation, you were killing those probe droids. So yeah, big time flashbacks with that.
Agreed. And then I think the last big thing is I think this is the first time we saw Omega reference the Batch as her brothers, which they literally are. But like also like there's other connotations there because like they're like a big group, like they're not like brothers, but like they're metaphorical as well as also physically being the same person. It's very complicated the way genetics works in this universe. But like, yeah, I think that was the first time I think we've heard her say that, and like it is true. Like she's part of their group, and so she's brothers with them metaphorically, and I guess also kind of in real life, which is I like that moment.
Genetically, I'm not even going to try to figure out how it all fits together. I do know with the clones and all that kind of stuff, but it's like when I try to figure out the Loki timeline and my head like starts spinning, I'm like, whoa. I missed that. I didn't catch the brothers thing, so that's definitely a cool part of this as well. And especially since it's going to be they're going to all be under attack by Crosshair coming up here, it's going to be a lot of like family kind of vibes with all of it too, which is going to make it even more dialed up the drama.
And she took it like she kind of took charge of the Bad Batch this episode. She's like, "No, we're gonna help them." Like, you don't have a choice, Hunter. She just told him.
If my fucking kid ever tells me like, "Oh no, we're going to the pool today," or "We're going to," I'm like, "Who the?" And I'll probably do it though. I'm not gonna lie, especially if she just takes the car herself or is driving the car with someone else. There's really nothing you can do.
Exactly. We get into some theories and questions and stuff like that. I think the biggest theory for me is just that our last 4 episodes are going to be just an arc format, and that it's going to be all about Crosshair's hunt of them. Where that takes them, I don't know. Where we're going to get a big death, whether that's Crosshair or someone else, I don't know. But we do know for sure that we're going to get a moment that people have said is going to make us want to cry, and I am just terrified of that moment. I'm just counting down the seconds to where I'm going to have to hit that and just bawl my eyes out like a baby.
Hunter's dead. Hunter is so dead. That's all I hate to say it, but by saying it's going to make it not hurt as much, I feel. There was a part, I think it was in the first episode, where Hunter was running away and he kind of like lingered for a sec looking at, I forgot what he was looking up at, and then he kept running away. I made a note of that, but I wasn't sure exactly what had happened there, but it's probably going to end with him dying, as I said.
Mm-hmm. You can see that the same sort of death scene that happened in Rebels. I won't spoil it for those of you who haven't watched. It was very, very similar vibes. So I can see that happening. I'm just terrified of where that's going to go. I'm more curious of where the story is going to end for them and Sid, because I don't think they leave that as like an open-ended thing. I think they close that. I think they close the story on Crosshair. I think they're going to have to sort of show us where Omega goes in the future, because I don't think they're going to be like, yeah, she just set sail off into the universe and we never saw her again. I think she's going to have some sort of connection to where we go in the future, and just maybe more stuff that's going to be connected to Rebels, because that's what immediately follows the Bad Batch, basically. So curious where that goes. Curious if you see any connection to stuff from the video games, like we had said before. Seeing Cal Kestis or something would have been cool in that last Scrapper episode. But I don't know. There's a lot of different places we can go with this, and I think that we're now like not like in the end game, but these 4 episodes I think are really going to be just, there's going to be a gel, much more gel than the last one. So very fun.
Yep. I think this is going to be, and I think I'm going in with big expectations on it. You know what I mean? Because I think it's going to be, like you said, 4 pretty much weave together. Plus, you have like the finale juice, the penultimate juice. You got to have the penultimate juice too. That's going to be a big deal. So those 2 things together, I feel like we're going to have, and I think it's going to be fun. Probably going to end with some sadness, but I'm stoked. I'm actually stoked.
Agreed. We'll be back next Friday, hopefully with Robbie back. I think he hopefully be not under the weather anymore by then. Make sure to check out My Mom's Basement on YouTube and check out Clem and Loki. See, this is what happens.
Freudian slip.
Exactly. With Clem and Rob, check out Clem and Robbie's recaps with Loki. They're amazing. And check out all the other Mom's Basement there. But from me and Clem, we'll see you next Friday. See you next time.